What if I told you there's a single skill that could literally double your productivity and, get this, lead to a more meaningful life? Now, here's the catch. You are probably losing this skill every single day without even realizing it. Welcome to Mind Switch Books, where we dive into game-changing ideas. Today, we are unpacking Cal Newport's incredible book, Deep Work. We're going to uncover the hidden enemy of our focus, define the superpower that is deep work, and, most importantly, I'm going to walk you through the actionable rules you can start using today to reclaim your attention and finally produce your absolute best work. All right, let's just start with a feeling I'm pretty sure you know all too well. You get to the end of the day, you look back, and you were busy, right? I mean, you answered a ton of emails, you hopped between meetings, you were juggling a dozen different tasks. But you've got this nagging feeling in your gut that you didn't actually accomplish anything important. You were active, sure, but you weren't productive. Sound familiar? Well, according to Cal Newport, that feeling comes from a constant war being waged for your attention. And it's a battle between two totally different kinds of effort. On one side, you have deep work, and on the other, you have its sneaky, deceptive cousin, shallow work. And let me tell you, understanding the difference between these two, well, it's the first step to changing absolutely everything about how you work. So before we can really embrace the power of deep work, we have to face the enemy. We have to understand the problem, which is the constant, relentless pull of the shallow. It's kind of become the default mode for so many of us in the modern world. And honestly, it's holding our true potential hostage. So what exactly is this shallow work? Well, Newport defines it as all those low-value, logistical tasks that don't really require much brain power. You know what I'm talking about. Answering emails the second they pop up, scheduling meetings, scrolling through social media feeds, constantly reorganizing your to-do list. These things feel productive, right? Because you're busy, but they don't push your skills and they don't create any significant new value in the world. And what's the main culprit behind this massive shift to the shallow? Newport is crystal clear on this. It's our modern network tools. Our email, our Slack channels, our social media, they are literally rewiring our brains for constant twitchy distraction. And you know, this shift isn't just an accident. There are these powerful forces that are constantly pushing us in that direction. There's what Newport calls the principle of least resistance. I mean, it's just easier to clear your inbox than to tackle that big, complex project, right? Then there's this idea of busyness as a proxy for productivity, where looking busy and being constantly online is somehow mistaken for doing valuable work. And of course, there's the culture of connectivity, this expectation that you'll reply to everything instantly. And the scale of this problem? It's honestly staggering. A study from Harvard found that professionals spend between 20 and 25 hours a week. Think about that. That's like a part-time job, just checking and answering email outside of normal work hours. That's not real work. It's just being in a constant state of reaction. But here's the real kicker. The biggest cost of all this shallow work isn't just the time you lose. It's this killer concept Newport calls attention residue. See, every time you take a quick glance at your inbox or your phone, a piece of your focus, a piece of your brain stays behind on that task. So when you turn back to what you were actually trying to do, you're doing it with a fractured, weaker mind. You're not bringing your full self to the table. Okay, so if that's the problem, a world basically designed to shatter our attention, what in the world is the solution? Well, this brings us to the core idea of the entire book. It's about building a practice that Newport calls nothing less than a 21st century superpower. And, you know, this isn't some brand new idea. The greatest minds throughout history, they just intuitively got this. The famous psychiatrist Carl Jung, for example, he literally built a stone tower. No electricity, no distractions, just so he could escape and think deeply for a few hours every single morning. And you can see the same exact principle in a more modern context. J.K. Rowling, for instance, was famously invisible on social media during all those years she was writing the Harry Potter books. When she finally joined Twitter, her very first tweet said something like, "Pen and paper is my priority at the moment." She even checked into a hotel to finish the final book, creating her own modern-day version of Jung's Stone Tower. But maybe the most extreme example is a young Bill Gates. He dropped out of Harvard to write the first piece of software for a new computer. For 8 straight weeks, he worked so intensely that he would literally fall asleep on his keyboard, wake up, and just keep coding. His partner, Paul Allen, called it a prodigious feat of concentration. That's deep work. So what do all these legends have in common? They're all masters of deep work. And here's the official definition from Newport. It's any professional activity you perform in a state of distraction-free concentration. It's the kind of work that pushes your brain to its absolute limit. And it's not just about avoiding distractions. It's about creating brand new value and actively getting better at your craft in the process. So why does this matter so much right now? Well, the book argues that in today's economy, deep work is absolutely essential because it builds the two core abilities you have to thrive. Number one, the ability to learn complicated things fast. And number two, the ability to produce work at an elite level, not just in quality, but in speed too. These are the skills that robots and AI can't easily replace. Okay, so we get the problem, we get the superpower. Now let's get to the really good stuff. This is where the book goes from theory to a practical playbook. Let's dive into Newport's 4 rules for actually building this skill in your own life. All right, rule number 1 is you have to be intentional about it. Deep work doesn't just happen by accident. Newport gives us 4 different ways to schedule it. First is the monastic approach. This is the extreme one. Think of a novelist who just disappears into a cabin to write. Then there's the bimodal approach, which is more practical. Maybe you dedicate 2 full days a week to deep work, and the other 3 are for meetings and email. The rhythmic approach is all about making it a simple, daily habit, like the first 90 minutes of every single day, no exceptions. And finally, there's the journalistic approach, which is for the pros. It's about seizing any unexpected chunk of free time you get for a quick, deep work session. That rhythmic approach is one of the most powerful, and it was famously used by the comedian Jerry Seinfeld. Someone asked him for advice on becoming a better comic, and he said the secret was to write jokes every single day. He got a big wall calendar and a red marker, and for every day he wrote, he'd put a big red X on that date. After a few days, he said, "You'll have a chain. Just keep at it and the chain will grow longer every day. Your only job next is to not break the chain." It's that simple. Okay, so a huge part of going deep is taming those digital tools that are always screaming for our attention, which of course leads to the big question, the one that's probably on your mind right now. Now, the book's answer isn't just a simple yes or no. It's actually way smarter. Newport calls it the craftsman approach. Think about it. A master woodworker doesn't just buy every shiny new tool that comes out. No way. She carefully chooses only the tools that are perfect for her craft. We should do the same thing with our digital tools. First, get super clear on your core goals, both personally and professionally. Then, for any app or social network, ask yourself this one simple question. Do the positive impacts of this tool substantially outweigh the negative ones? If the answer isn't a clear and obvious yes, it might be time to let it go. So, we've talked a lot about productivity and getting ahead in your career, but I think the book's most profound argument really is that practicing deep work doesn't just make you better at your job, it is a key ingredient for living a more present, engaged, and genuinely fulfilling life. This idea ties directly into that famous psychological concept called flow, which was researched by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He discovered that human beings are actually at their happiest, not when they're lounging around relaxing, but when they're totally immersed in a difficult challenge, stretching their skills right to the edge. That state of flow, well, that's basically just another name for deep work in action. And the flip side? Well, we've all lived it. A workday that's just driven by shallow tasks, reacting to notifications, getting pulled into email chains, dealing with petty distractions. It's neurologically exhausting. Even if the tasks themselves are harmless, the constant switching wires your brain to experience the world as a place of stress, irritation, and, well, triviality. But ultimately, the practice of deep work, a lot like the work of a master craftsman, it grounds you, it connects you to a real skill and the deep satisfaction of creating something valuable. It gives you a source of meaning that's rooted in reality and craftsmanship, and it frees you from that exhausting burden of trying to invent meaning from a constant stream of digital noise. So here's the bottom line. Deep work is so much more than just another productivity hack. It is a complete framework for producing work that matters, for developing skills that last, and for building a life of intention and focus. It's about taking back control of your most valuable asset, your attention. So the only question left is, in a world that's begging for your distraction, what could you create by going deep? Thank you so much for joining me. If these ideas hit home for you, the book itself is an absolute masterclass. To dive into all the strategies, check out the link to deep work in the description below. And for more deep dives like this one, make sure you subscribe to the MindSwitch Books channel. Until next time, stay focused.
Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful to you, share it with someone who might benefit from it, and consider subscribing to the channel. I'll leave the link to purchase this book below in the description. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.